The ground didn't give any warning. One swing of a restoration crew's shovel in a quiet Belgian park, and history cracked open like an old vault. Concrete, reinforcement steel, a room sealed in silence for 80 years. During World War II, the biggest enemy wasn't always the opposing army. Sometimes it was winter. Cities froze, supplies thinned, bombs fell during the coldest nights of the year. And as nations dug in, engineers across Europe began crafting shelters that could survive anything that the front threw at them. Bitter cold, aerial fire, and the kind of ground-shaking bombardments that turned whole districts into rubble. At the height of the war, shelters were everywhere. Underground nests of reinforced concrete. Steel-ribbed chambers built into dunes. Air raid shelters in backyards. Frontline bunkers thicker than the walls of a modern bank vault. Some German flak towers had walls so dense that even post-war demolition crews using high-power explosives failed to bring them down. And in certain German cities, underground civilian shelters reportedly held up to 60,000 people at once when the sirens wailed. These weren't random hideouts. They were precision-built winter lifeboats for entire communities. Tough, insulated, efficient, and so well-engineered that destroying them after the war became a problem far bigger than building them. When peace finally limped back across Europe, these shelters became ghosts, unwanted reminders of fear, invasion, and shattered nights. Many local governments wanted nothing more than to flatten them, clear the land, and bury the era with them, and some were destroyed. Easier models, like many small backyard air raid shelters, were torn up and scrapped for metal. But the giant concrete monsters, those were beasts, too thick, too stubborn, too expensive to remove. So officials used another tactic. They buried them. They sealed the doors, filled the entryways. Let the dunes, soil or forest moss swallow the structures whole. A quick solution, a clean slate for rebuilding cities and reputations. And with time, the exact locations of countless bunkers and winter shelters blurred, then vanished, until the land itself started whispering again. Fast forward nearly 80 years. A dune restoration project in Knokke-Heist, a quiet Belgian coastal town, began clearing overgrown patches of Willems Park. The workers expected roots, sand, and maybe a few wartime scraps. What they got instead were 3 complete World War II concrete bunkers, hiding just beneath the surface. These weren't flimsy structures. Each bunker stretched roughly 6 by 7 metres, topped with a 1-metre-thick slab of reinforced concrete. Inside, the rooms were almost untouched, sealed so tightly that the air felt trapped in time. Even their trenches and pathways survived under the shifting sand, along with pipes, metal fragments, discarded gear and ammunition long forgotten. And the biggest revelation? Local officials admitted they believed these bunkers had been destroyed decades ago. Erased. Gone. But winter shelters built like this don't die easily. They just wait. Germany offered another surprise when a nature-clearing effort peeled back the soil and revealed preserved bunkers and trench lines from the same era. Whole sections of defensive networks, once thought lost, suddenly lay exposed beneath the roots of trees younger than the war itself. And these aren't isolated events. Across Europe, whenever a forest thins, a dune shifts, or a developer breaks ground, the past wakes up. Underground shelters, air raid rooms, entire fortification complexes, all part of a hidden network of wartime survival that was deliberately buried but never truly gone. When you stare into the doorway of one of these uncovered bunkers, the cold air that hits your face isn't just old, it's honest. It forces us to confront a truth the post-war world tried to sweep aside. These shelters were masterpieces of necessity, built fast, built smart, built to withstand winter, fire and chaos. Their rediscovery reminds us that wartime engineering wasn't only about weapons, it was about survival, about protecting families during nights when the sky cracked open with fire, about soldiers trying to endure the kind of cold that freezes breath mid-air. More importantly, uncovering these sites shows how societies decide what parts of history deserve the light, and which parts get pushed into the dark. After World War II, no one wanted to celebrate bunkers. They weren't symbols of victory, they were symbols of fear. So the world covered them. Cities grew, parks were planted, and sand drifted in the wind. But the concrete never moved. Now, as more of these winter shelters reappear, they challenge us to reconsider what wartime memory really looks like. Not just battlefields and flags, but the cold nights, the hidden rooms, the desperate ingenuity of ordinary people trying to survive a world burning around them. Some cities are even exploring new uses for these forgotten fortresses, from underground farms to small museums to community storage. The very shelters once marked for erasure may yet become foundations for something new. The real story here isn't just about bunkers, it's about endurance. The endurance of structures built under fire, the endurance of memories buried under decades of silence, and the endurance of truths that return no matter how deep they're pushed underground. Every time one of these shelters resurfaces, it reminds us that history isn't just written in books. Sometimes it erupts from the soil, demanding to be seen. If you love uncovering the forgotten edges of war, the hidden fronts, the buried engineering, the stories no one bothered to tell, this channel is where those secrets get their voice back. So share this episode with someone who loves a good untold story, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next time history cracks open beneath our feet.